My debut novel, Don't Jump, chronicles a woman's quest to find her place and purpose amid sex, drugs, rock and roll, and celebrity. I was going to read a chapter to blind you with my brilliance. Instead, you're getting this, because I'm moving backwards in time a bit, because a certain drummer makes a very brief guest appearance. And it's a time that I share with quite a few people in the room. This installment takes place in New York in the mid-'80s and finds Andy, a 30-something single, up-and-coming rock and roll promoter, post-divorce, trying to navigate her way out of her dysfunctional relationship with Eddie, her young, passionate, Machiavellian rocker, and into one with Vinny, the 20-something, almost famous pizza boy toy of the exceedingly famous Pandora Amora, whom Andy has only just met, and whom Lola, a renowned psychic, informed her she will one day marry. Having recently moved out of Eddie's place, she is currently crashing with her folks, Cookie and Cy. And I made all of this up.
Yeah.
Now you guys have heard the next chapter about a year ago, but anyway, we're going back because this is for Louie. I was elated by Lola's news, but what the fuck? Vincent was having a very high-profile romance with Pandora Amora. Photos of them snuggling were in magazines everywhere. Pandora was at the height of her fame, getting the respect she'd always craved and looking better than ever, thanks to the glow of love and some very extensive cosmetic surgery. The women who loved too much were having our weekly meeting at Mary Ann's a few days later. As always, before we officially began, we sat around eating crap and talking shit. I was silently debating whether or not to share my psychic news with Lana and Melanie. My inner voice was screaming, don't. When will I learn that when my inner voice speaks, I need to shut the fuck up? Not this day. I told them everything. About Lana, about Vincent, the marriage, everything. Lana, cross-legged on the floor, fell backwards laughing. That is the greatest story I have ever heard. I bet Vinny has a lot of really cute friends. I believe. Amen, said Mary Ann. The three of us carried on like 8-year-olds. Melanie just sat there glaring. I knew she wasn't into the psychic stuff, but she seemed angry. It made me uncomfortable. It made us all uncomfortable. I smoked a bowl and started the meeting. Later that night, we met up at B-Bar. The club was buzzing. Quickly scanning the room, I caught sight of Vincent leaning seductively at the far end of the bar, looking not unlike John Travolta did in Urban Cowboy when Deborah Winger notices him for the first time. I wiped my mouth, fearful the drool would dribble down my chin. Sensing my presence, he turned in my direction and shot me a smile. As if in quicksand, I couldn't move. Fortunately, Lana approached at just that moment. Unaware of the spell I was under, she dragged me into reality and up to the bar for a shooter. While downing my third shot, I got bumped from behind, almost knocking the glass right out of my hand. Slightly perturbed, I turned around ready to display a nice sarcastic smirk and looked right into Pizza Boy's big brown eyes. They were laughing, those eyes, and in an instant, so was I. I tried to maintain my huff, but neither of us was buying it. Reintroducing him to the girls, he reminded me and them that we went way back to high school. I laughed. Yeah, I'd laughed at that joke 8 times already, but I would have bought a damn bridge from that boy. We batted our eyes and laughed too loudly at his jokes, and when he'd gotten the sufficient boost he was craving, he swaggered off with a self-satisfied smirk. We giggled and toasted my new groom. For the next 4 nights at the stroke of midnight, as I made my entrance to the lower levels of B-Bar, each night afraid to hope, there he'd be, and it was always the same. Stolen glances from across the room, pretending not to notice, not to stare, looking away, avoiding eye contact, and yet somehow, always ending up within inches of each other, getting embarrassed, saying a few words, and moving on. On the 5th night, he was nowhere to be found. I was beyond bummed. An hour or so later, distracted and flirting with Tad, a tall, good-looking rock and roller I had recently started booking, I got rear-ended so hard I had to grab the bar to stop my momentum. Furious, I whipped around, and there was good old Vinny, shaking his head and wagging his finger. Without explanation, he walked away and started sort of dancing with himself. I couldn't take my eyes off him, and he damn well knew it. Tad did not like the interruption and was talking very close, staring into my eyes, working hard to maintain my total attention. He took me into his arms, leading me into his moves. Why is it that for months, single and looking, not one guy expressed interest in me, not the slightest, and now here were two gorgeous boys making dancing fools out of themselves? Why? Who gives a fuck why? Tad was nudging me to leave and have a nightcap elsewhere, and as much as I wanted to stay, I suspected that my leaving with Tad would potentially do more good than harm. Oh, what a tangled web I weave. As Tad and I headed for the exit, I caught a glimpse of Vincent chatting up a young lovely. Checkmate. It wasn't until we hit the street that I noticed how intoxicated Tad was. Watching Pizza Boy had taken its toll. He insisted we go around the corner to his place. He was acting kind of scary, so naturally, I agreed. Within moments of smoking a bowl, he was sloppy, stoned, and all over me. Trying to push him off with all my strength, the more I resisted, the more he persisted. This cocktail was getting scared, really scared. And just as I was beginning to panic, Tad's roommate bounded through the door. Figuring we were engaging in some intimate act, he turned to leave. I grabbed his arm and insisted he join us. As he sat down, I excused myself to go to the bathroom and ran out the front door like an escaping POW. Oh, the glamorous life of a single girl. Rock Bar stock was on the rise. I was working round the clock, determined to put us on the map, and myself along with it. Sidemen of famous players would front cover bands, wherever they are, in their downtime and take regular gigs just to hang out together, have fun, get loaded, and be the star attraction for the night. Exceedingly talented, had luck served them differently, a lot of these guys could have been as famous as the rockers they supported rather. An intimate and cool little club, the headliners were coming down more and more to jam. Rick Derringer rock and rolled hoochie cooed on a regular basis. When I was barely a teenager, I'd snuck in to see him play at the Fillmore East just before it closed. Carole King, Elliot Easton, Eddie Ojeda, Taylor Dane, Badfinger, and Davy friggin' Jones all graced our tiny stage. A couple of sexy, swarthy Italian types, the Moretti brothers, were playing one night. They were working with Ursula Rain on her comeback album. She'd been promising for weeks to stop by. I worshipped her. I knew every word to every one of her songs. I'd performed them nightly in my bedroom for years. I'd had a little crush on Sal Moretti for a while, nothing big, just a very subtle little flirt that made working on the nights he was playing more fun. He was shy. His brother James, the front man, was the outgoing one, the one who chatted up the ladies and got most of them, I suspect. James waved me over, introducing me to Ursula. Fawning over her, I declared my lifelong love and devotion. I showered her in French fries. Ursula loved to eat, and we had the best French fries short of Nathan's. She hung out for hours, singing and playing and eating. It was amazing to have this icon performing an almost private concert on this quiet Tuesday evening. At 2 a.m., we turned up the house lights, not so subtly suggesting that everyone get out. It was our turn to play. James and Ursula were chatting in the corner. Want to join us for a bite? Are you kidding me? I'd been living at Cookies for months while I half-heartedly apartment searched, but Eddie had invited me to spend the night. We both had an itch that needed scratching. Knowing he was out drinking every night until the bars closed, never saying where or with whom, I figured, what the fuck? Hanging out with Ursula was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'd get to Eddie's when I got there. Sal went home to bed. James, Ursula, and I headed off to the Chelsea Diner. Thanks to her easy manner and the joint I just smoked in the bathroom before leaving, I was pretty relaxed. She invited me to share a Caesar salad with her. It was outrageously delicious and loaded with garlic. Eddie despised the scent of garlic and chastised me for such eating. It had been years since I'd enjoyed a garlic-laden Caesar. I ate with gusto. If he could get plastered, I could eat whatever I wanted. We weren't kissing anymore anyway. Sadly, that's one of the first things to go when time and contempt creep in.